exciting emerging applications of generative AI. And could you explain how AI is already impacting certain sectors, pick your choice, banking or manufacturing or insurance or whatever?
Thank you, Raj. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. And really fascinated by the way you were, talking and putting a little bit pressure on us to deliver. But, we'll take it up in our stride. I'll talk from my experience in banking, because the organization that I head in India, Zafin, we are a banking technology company. In fact, what we have is an AI-powered platform that helps with product and pricing innovation. What that means is, if you are a customer, getting you the right set of products at the right rates and fees or offers or promotion based on the relationships that the bank has with you. So how do we do that? We do that where there is an engine that is working behind the scenes, which is AI. I've really hyper-simplified it, right? We are also a SaaS-based player. In fact, in 2016, we are a almost 25-year-old company, organization, headquartered in Canada. When we started, in 2016, we pivoted, we were an on-prem player, and then we pivoted to becoming a cloud player. And now in 2025, we are talking about AI. We've become an AI-powered platform. You talked about exponential growth, right? That is what we are witnessing. Because when we look at it, one of the things I really like what Satya Nadella says is technology is the only area in which tradition is not respected. You have to always innovate. And so if you don't innovate, you don't understand what your customers, or in our case, people like all of us and commercial customers want, we will fail. So we have taken up AI in a big way, including in the biggest thing for us is how do we enhance customer experience? So I talked about relationship banking. How do we create operational efficiencies, which we do through our platform? For instance, the speed, we talked again about speed, what we use AI for, and the world has changed because I think a few months back even, or last year when I was talking about AI, I was still maybe hinting it as, still a little bit of the future. But now I'm talking about it as somebody who uses it in my daily work and life. You may ask how. So for instance, we are a platform, we're a product company. Our technologists build these products for banks, which does this innovation, in a large part using AI. How? So we use something like, say, Cursor AI, which is a code-based, AI code-based editor. And one instance is how at speed at which we are able to create products or help banks create products. So that's accelerating the product velocity. That's one thing that we do. And one recent case study is we helped, one of the banks that we work with in the US. Usually what takes 3 months at least to create a promotional offer for their customers was done in 5 days. 90% of that functional component that we were able to build was generated using this Cursor AI. But one of the things that is important to note is we don't just let the AI do the work. And I know we may come to it later, but we also have that human oversight happening, or that overseeing of that, because AI is important, but we also have human plus AI, that is, or AI plus human. That is how we like to say it. Another product of ours that we have, and I want to talk about it because it's again from a banking perspective. All of these different banks around the world, they have all of these data that they generate, right? Whether it is products, pricing, offers, promotions. How does a bank compete with another bank? There's a vast amount of data in different formats, maybe not fully, complete, like in PDFs and different kind of things. So we have a product that actually takes this data, market insights from all over the world, different banks, and we make it into a much more structured, normalized data that helps banks quickly and get that information, which helps them build their products and offers to the customer. So there are so many different ways that our products use AI to help banks. But the other interesting thing that we do is our own employees. So 80% of our employee base is pure technologists, right? So they are product owners, managers, engineers, architects, and the others are, maybe in our customer success team, so delivery engineers, architects, solution folks. But the interesting part is that the other 20% as well does the operations and all of that. But the interesting bit is all of them use things like ChatGPT. We recently tied up with we just announced our partnership with OpenAI. What does that mean? It means that we have enterprise ChatGPT embedded into our day-to-day operations. So 30 to 40% efficiency is what we are looking at. So that means all the regular mundane or routine stuff is being done by the AI, right? So we have GPTs created, whether it is learning, whether it is finance, whether it's pre-sales, whether it's sales, whether it's, so the speed at which we are able to now deliver is just mind-boggling.
May I ask you two follow-up questions? One, as if I'm a member of the audience, and one as a person who's fairly deeply involved in AI. The first question is, I, as a customer, I'm pretty happy with the kind of technologies that have come in banking. I can go to any branch anywhere in the country, and I don't have to be going only to my branch, anywhere banking. Things have speeded up quite a bit. I can go to get ATMs from anywhere and get money. So what will this AI do for me that's not already happening? Right. And is it going to cost me more?
No, it's going to simplify is what we like. It cuts through the complexity is what we like to think.
For you or for me as
For both sides, right? Okay. Because, when we offer products, one is, of course, from a B2B perspective, we are working with banks. But what makes it easier for me is when the bank knows who I am, and if I have had a long relationship with that bank, so supposing I'm banking with, one of the, South Indian Bank, and I've been there since I was like a child with, they know me, they know my requirements, and they are able to create, if they were to do, take up something like this, create specific customized products for me. And they are also able to give me maybe waive off fees, on some things. Right? They are building transparency into how they deal with me. So which means they are also ensuring that I have loyalty towards them. So based on that, the more we start to get in, right? Which is why we became, we are calling ourselves a platform. It's not just one little product. It started off as one product, but it's the end-to-end, right? Throughout the entire life cycle. So you see more benefits coming in because for the banks, it's operational efficiency, speed of offers and, things, products to the better pricing. But for me as a customer, it's the transformation. It's able to see what do I get the best information? How do I process it faster? How do I, get something? So a lot of different ways, you can.
So I won't be treated like one of a million customers,
Correct.
But because of AI, the product understands me and my history and my background and can give me a product which is really suitable for me.
A very hyper-personalized experience. And that exactly is what AI gives you, right? And what we give. Yeah. At the end of the day, when we serve banks, it's basically the customer. And they are getting that hyper-personalized experience.
Yeah. And there's one question I might ask everyone when their turn comes. To you, I'm saying, look, I'm worried that AI has agency. And just for your information, when I say AI has agency means it's got the power to do something on its own without taking any approval from anybody. AI has now reached a stage where it has agency, which means it can even do things which are not supposed to do. For instance, even recently as of December 2024, there was a scientific paper which showed that on AI platform, a model called Claude, AI was cheating. It was lying. It was pretending to do as per instruction, but it was still following the old training it had got. So it's actually, and a lot of data on which has been trained, the global data has been trained, where lots of cheating also happens, so it's also learned to cheat. It's also possible for AI to create its own AI without your permission. And we don't know what that can do. So in the banking situation, can some of the AI actually create problems for them?
Yeah,
us as
I
customers?
mean, banking, highly regulated industry.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of guardrails that we do within, I mean, governance, in fact, I'm part of a committee that we formed called Responsible AI, right? Which, so that goes without saying. And some of the banks are, of course, more reluctant than others. But the point is, if you don't adapt, you may also perish, right? But in the second instance, there are these rogue agents that are happening, which is why there's a lot more investment into the security part of it, training, and a lot of things that are going on the back end, and the human side of it, which is why we are saying it's not AI alone. There is always going to be a human involved. Like the final output is the human. And there are many cases. In fact, there was a recent case where an AI agent went rogue and completely took out the production data, right? So there are instances like that. They wiped out the entire data. But the idea is that, we will need to put as much guardrails as possible. We need to train the people who are handling AI. We need to bring in different kinds of experts to understand AI, who are building it as well as using it.
That's very reassuring. Now, Pradeep, while we were waiting outside, you were telling us about logistics challenges and opportunities and requirements in this country. Can you explain with some examples, how logistics or agriculture or healthcare, how could these be changing because of AI?
I'll try to be crisp. I think it's working, right? First, I'll take, for example, in education, because I just came to my mind because once I came here, real life example, I saw my fellow panelists, both of them took the notes, wrote something, and I turned and the whole page is filled, and I'm also there, right? The teacher is this, right? So, but the teaching methodology for a student like me and my esteemed panelists needs to be changing, right? So education is a place which is going to be disrupted by two sides, right? One, the teaching side, where you will be able to have good quality customized education at an individual student level. So today, everything depends on the student, the teacher. The teacher's capability varies. So that's one, right? So, and at your your paced learning and so on and so forth. Similarly, on the student and related stuff. So now there are already a lot of tests some of your kids might be taking where they evaluate the strengths of the individual. Your algorithm runs and tells, these are the areas which your kid can be better at. There are already things like that, right? So how do you kind of analyze the strengths and the gaps of a person, and what kind of an education system or a teaching methodology that needs to be there, right? So the moment I saw this, I thought I will definitely, show that because that's an area that is going to be significantly disturbed by AI pretty soon. From a logistics side, the disturbance is already on. So from Vizhinjam perspective, India's first, automated terminal. I'll give you a classic example, right? So if you go to a yard, you will not see anybody. So earlier, every crane used to have 2 or 3 people to operate per shift. Now we have 1 for 4 or 5 cranes. 1 person monitoring, not even actually, working on it. Rain, shine, holidays doesn't matter. It cranks out the product that it is designed to. The other very interesting concept which is happening is the whole warehouse and the way you think about storing, retail and so on and so forth. If you look at the traditional warehouse and the warehouse design, you see that, if you, let's take a, retail. So you go and, rice is in one place. You want to have milk, you need to go somewhere else. But you want to go, say, dal, it's another place. Oil, there is another place. There are aisles for each one of this. But imagine a warehouse in Amazon or Flipkart or Big Basket or whomever is delivering this in 10 minutes time. You place an order. So you are going to place 2 kg of rice, 1 kg of dal, maybe 1 liter of milk, some sugar, some whatever it is. The person is going to go through all these channels and then fill your one order, right? So that is inefficient. And people have already realized that that is inefficient. The way it is actually going towards is your ability to store random. So I will have oil, next to that is rice, maybe next to that is maybe something else, candle and so on. How do you define that whole thing is actually AI is actually deciding on how this whole your warehousing and warehousing layout and how the products are actually stored, right, from that perspective. The moment you have that, and these are all needs to be customized because this changes from country to country, this changes from state to state, and what Trivandrum consumes will not be the same thing of what Ernakulam consumes, right? So how do you go to that line of kind of a hyper-personalization is only doable with AI and algorithm, which is already there in certain parts of the world. And they have seen that good 30 to 40% improvement in efficiency rather than going the traditional way of logistics. Sir is there already, so I know it's again, radiology is something, your ability to analyze and give something much faster and much more accurate in terms of deducing, what might be the cause. That is already there. I think there is quite a bit of work that has happened. It is happening and it is already implemented, right? So in the medical field, it's very, very interesting that I generally read through on some of these things and what are the places where you earn maximum money, right? Some of the specialization that used to have money is actually kind of getting diminished across industries, irrespective of whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whether it is manufacturing, and so on and so forth, right? So that's something which is already there. It is happening. So I joined analytics, or I started analytics way earlier in 2003 when there were only a few hundred people. To Sir's example on exponential growth. And when I tell analytics, nobody, as part of G, that was the first one to set up in India, nobody knew what analytics was. So I have to tell, I was in, technology means it was IT those days. So I used to say I'm in strategy, I work for consumer finance, banking, something like that. If I tell credit card, they'll say, are you part of a call center? So it was actually a confusion of how to even define what analytics is. Then when kind of progressed few years, this big data became a big talk, volume, velocity, variety, and so on and so forth. Nobody even talks about any of those things. Those are all done and dusted from that perspective. Generative AI, it's already gone as now agentic AI and AGI is what is being talked about, right? So if you see the young crowd of it, they feel that generative AI itself is one generation old, right? So we need to be prepared, and this is happening whether we like it or not.
Yeah, Pradeep, while you're talking about all these fancy things, I also heard you say that, where there used to be 3 people, now you have none or 1 or something. So what do you think, Suja? Do you think this will destroy jobs in this state? We need more and more jobs. And is this going to destroy jobs?
I mean, that's the debate that is happening, right? And the fear. And there are reports that, Goldman Sachs came out with 300 million jobs displaced in the next 5 years, right? But what we are seeing in real is it will definitely impact jobs. It's creating different kinds of jobs, but it will also do away with some of the traditional jobs that we are used to seeing, right? I mean, we are already seeing that, like data entry and, even I would say even designers and even coders for that matter, because a cursor AI can code faster, right? You just need that human intervention guy. So it is trickier for people who are coming out of colleges right now to find jobs because they are not trained, they are not job ready in a different sense than maybe what was a couple of years back, because we are looking at a different kind of thinking from them. We are the expectations are really different, because where AI, when we talk about AI plus human, right? That human intervention is around creative thinking, ethics, thinking about a domain, right? Because whatever if you were to just take out what ChatGPT gives you, I mean, there are going to be errors, right? So you need that domain expertise. So it is definitely making it difficult or more challenging for youngsters coming in. It is also important for people who are in any level of the job, right? In any level of your career. If you do not unlearn, relearn, you are in trouble, right? Because we all have become prompt engineers now. If we don't, we cannot, right? And the number of times that we use GPTs or ChatGPT or whatever to ask DeepSeek, whichever you're using, has gone up exponentially as well. I don't think we rely on Google anymore. So if you don't know how to ask the right question, so that means a different sets of skills that we require. So it is not about exactly replacing. I think we are having, human intelligence is being augmented. And I think
so what she's saying, some jobs will go, but many other new types of jobs will come. and the skilling required for the new types of jobs may be different. In some cases, it might be a question of relearning, reskilling, but actually in human history, if you see, this has been the case. When the first steam engine came, there were a lot of people who are called Luddites, who prevented these machines from operating because they're losing their jobs. But soon, many, many more jobs were created. Even at the turn of the 20th century, when horse carriages were replaced by automobiles, a lot of people were upset. What happens to all the carpenters who make the horse carriages? What happens to all the horses and the people who look after horses? This is going to create chaos. Yeah, but those jobs went and they probably figured out what else they could do. But the whole automobile industry has been created, which instead of maybe 10,000 carriages or 1 lakh carriages, we're talking about 60 million cars a year. We're talking about the supply chain which gets into the cars to manufacture cars, spare parts, all kinds of things, creating jobs. Forget even the downwards chain for automobile servicing, for financing, for insurance. Unbelievable number of jobs have been created because automobiles came and disrupted horse carriages. Likewise, here also we're going to see lots of new jobs coming, far more than the kind of jobs which have been displaced. But we'll come to that. You mentioned one thing, that it can give misinformation or something, wrong information. So I've got a question to you. I've not forgotten you, okay? I've got a question to you. There's a lot of misinformation sometimes you get, fake news, fake videos, fake everything. How do you deal with this sort of stuff? Isn't it one of the problems AI is creating?
It is actually a big problem, and it is getting sophisticated day by day. Now it is almost getting difficult to differentiate between what is the real and what is the fake one, right? How do we, first, is it creating chaos today? Yes, it is. The significant challenge is also a certain set of population today has access to digital content, but they do not necessarily understand the digital technology, right? What goes behind it. So that is going to be a significant population. It is sometimes very surprising when we see news as digital arrest and something else, and some banks calling and scheming things. As a digital person, I'll sometimes think through stating that how can this even happen? It's right on the face. But then you also realize that not everybody understands how every step gets distributed, right? So is it a challenge? A big challenge today. We face it, right? So we have a lot of fake offer letters of Adani floating around. If you see right from our logo to our persons, their designation, because it's all available on social media now, right? So, and it goes, right? How do we, so the long story short is, yes, it's a big cause of concern. How do we manage it today is, at least, there is two things which is also happening. Like, let's first tell that technology is also helping how to find there is a fake through technology. So there is a lot of, if you actually look at the cyber security and few other things, it is again a bunch of another set of algorithms that run and find out whether it is fake or not, right? So that's a different set of algorithms. Second, and it has also actually helped us a lot of things. How do we kind of understand what the source is to make sure it is validated? Do we need governance? Laws are not strong enough, but will we curtail it too much? That's another challenge. Do we need to have an overseeing mechanism? So there's a lot of places where it is actually happening, where when you are presenting something, thank you. When you're presenting something, you are supposed to give credit to the source, right? So there's a lot of countries that are coming with regulations in that. Will that help in preventing? Maybe. So can technology help in managing technology better? 100%. Then humans and our own training on how we kind of handle this. That's where even more bigger gap is today. I think that needs to be given some serious consideration.
See, there's some ethical issues also. Like, for instance, tomorrow it's possible to show you, create a video of you climbing up the pipeline and getting into the second floor of somebody's house and coming back with a bag full of goodies. And then they say, look, this guy has got a part-time job of burglary. How will you stand up? The concept of trust is gone, no? If you can do that. And a lot of people think, yeah, this guy in daytime he wears a suit and all that, and at night he wears a burglar suit.
I do agree. I wish I had that kind of second job, which is very interesting, like Robin Hood. But so today, deepfakes are very common, and as I said, it is as good as original. And there are a lot of, I think recently, one of the VPs or something of US, somebody called another country leader with a fake voice. And that person actually, a president of another country actually believed that it is actually from the VP of US calling, right? So technology has gone to that level where it is not you and I, people at that level are getting impacted, and they couldn't find that it was fake. I do agree. It's a potential threat. So we need to do multiple steps to make sure that first is educating the people, right, and training the people, and to tell them that don't believe in what you see or what you say because the world has changed. It's going to take a while to go through that. Second thing is, proactive actions. When I started doing digital marketing many years back, we used to do a lot of these web crawling and do a lot of stuff. I don't want to name one of the world's topmost brands. We worked on an algorithm, so they have a huge command center. So we monitor the whole world of anything supposed to have negative in this brand-related product or the constituents of the product. So that we proactively take action and so that the brand is protected, right? So this was built many years back. Very, very interesting project. Same thing can be done, right? So now technology has improved, right? Can we kind of find ways to kind of reach out to these things before it gets spread or going viral? That's what exactly we did many years back. Now some things have got a lot more sophisticated, and slightly better regulations and so on and so forth, which is missing today.
It's interesting because, talking about brand protection and so on and so forth, and you said new technology is possible. In fact, one of my companies is actually helping a PR company in the US, which serves about 600 of the top brands in the US, to detect any kind of news happening anywhere in the world which will affect that company's reputation and its share price. CEOs are bothered about share price because they have lots of these ESOPs. And they have to know immediately, and the PR company has to act before the client gets to know. We have created a method. They had a method which used digital technologies, etc., and they thought they were very efficient. Now we have created a method whereby it takes them 1/20th of the time and at 1/3 of the cost. We charge them 1/3 of what they were being paid earlier, although we could have charged less, a little higher than that, yet they would be happy. But we did it because we could get much more work. So earlier we were getting a certain amount of work at about 47% gross margin. I'm revealing a secret here. Now we're getting 7 times the amount of revenue because they're giving us more work, and our gross margin there is 86%. So we are in clover, 14 times more profit by reducing the price to 1/3. But that's besides the point. So this technology is coming. Now, you're a product person. You've been very patient. Thank you so much. And are you a votary for more governance, much more governance? And I'll tell you the context. One of the co-founders of DeepMind, Mustafa Suleyman, who is now the head of AI at Microsoft, he wrote a seminal book last year called The Coming Wave. And I think anyone who wants to know anything about AI, want to use AI, should read that book, The Coming Wave. It's amazing. There he argues that it's extremely important for governments to regulate the AI industry and not let it do all kinds of things. Now, you're a product person from IBM. So what do you think? What's your view? Should there be much more governance? Or do do you think, no, we should let the industry self-regulate? Most of us feels, no, it has to be regulated from outside. But what's your personal view? I'm not asking for IBM's view, your view.
Yeah, good evening, team. So my view is that it needs to be governed and it needs to be regulated. And there are reasons. Let me start with an example, right? What we are talking about is systems which uses AI. Many of you are industry leaders and you would be wondering, or you're already practicing, how would I be using AI in my current products and services, and how can I help my customers better, right? So if you look at the adoption of AI today, majority of the companies are experimenting and in the next level of wave, right? Early adopters and beyond, they're trying to adopt technology very rapidly. But practically what we see is, it is still not yet on the mission critical systems. It is still, even if it is in a mission critical system, it is still at the peripheries of it, right? So what is preventing enterprises from putting this technology in the middle of mission critical systems? One of the key parameters is governance. If I put an example, right? If you go and see a doctor, and this may not be true anymore because before you see the doctor and after you see the doctor, you would be now putting your question with ChatGPT and other tools, right? So you will be validating it. But still, let me take a few years back, right? Let's rewind by a couple of years and go back and see. If you go to a doctor and the doctor is giving a suggestion or a recommendation, there is a high likelihood that you will believe it and you go by it, right? What if AI is giving that recommendation to you? Will you believe it? There could be a question mark, right? You may not. What is the reason for that? It is trust. It is confidence, right? So how do you produce trust and confidence? It cannot be subjective. I cannot tell you that you have to trust me. You will not trust me if I say that. And if I say that the second time, you will never trust me. So trust and confidence will have to come objectively, right? So there are a lot of factors that has to be built into AI to bring that out. So that is the first part of governance. So there are different factors around it. For example, one is bias. Anybody here who is not biased? I'm biased for different things, right? So similarly, models are also biased. AI is also biased. What is end of the day AI? AI is a system built using statistical methods on top of data. So you train data and you find a pattern and you build answers based on that, right? So if your data is biased, your AI is biased. So how do you control bias? For example, there was a recent scientific study that says majority of the models that we have today, when I say models, I'm talking about large language models and even small language models, right? But majority of the AI models are fine-tuned to be supportive of people who are asking questions. For example, if you make a statement and ask a model to give 10 reasons to support that statement, it will give you 10 reasons. And the same statement, if you ask the model, can you give me 10 reasons not to support that statement? It can give that also. So it is trying to support you, right? So that is one way of bias, but there are different types of bias. Another one is, for example, drift. You train the model with certain data, but practically over a period of time, your actual real-world scenarios change, and your AI's responses will change. How do you handle drift, right? So that is another one. Most important, like the doctor scenario, right? The medical scenario. If somebody is giving a suggestion, even if it is an experienced doctor, you as a patient, you want to understand. You want explainability. You will ask, why? Can you explain me more, right? And the same question will go for AI also. Can you explain me why you took that decision? Raj was talking about agentic AI, right? That is the future. I'll come to that. But these are systems that are more autonomous and it can take decisions. And when it takes a decision, you want to understand. Can you explain that to me? Similarly, when I say explain, right, when you ask the system to explain, it has to tell the steps or the logic it applied to arrive at an answer. Once you see that, and if you're convinced about the path, there is more likelihood that you'll be convinced about the answer, and your confidence will go up and the trust will go up. So that is why it's extremely important to have governance. Now the second part is, when it comes to majority of the industries, there is a legal angle to it, right? Because these decisions that we are talking about, it has repercussions. So what is the repercussion? If it is medical, I don't have to tell you what the repercussion is. If it is in manufacturing or, for example, legal, right? If AI is supporting legally, there is a repercussion to that. So this entire domain it will be surrounded by the legal system, which means regulatory aspects are coming into play. So it has to be auditable, right? So how do you build in auditability? How do you build in explainability? How do you build in reasoning on how it took a decision and the data lineage towards that and the proof points, right? So all these are extremely important. So there are two aspects. One is governance, which I mentioned. The second one is regulatory, right? Both will have to be hand in hand, and there is no other way trust and confidence can be built. And without trust and confidence, you can never reach the mission critical situation.
What would you do about somebody, a cowboy like Sam Altman? He says one thing, means something, and then does something else completely. Completely uncontrollable person. And then we also have bad actors like in certain countries, without naming them, who do things or are working on AI which can be pretty destructive. What can we do about, we can't do anything about those countries, but at least what do you do about people like this?
So you need to put guardrails around your systems. So that is what you have to do. I'll give you an example. This came from a client conversation. So we were talking about a very basic use case to implement AI, and it was an HR use case, and it was about compensation, right? And this is a very trivial use case. It's not complicated, but for the sake of it, right? For the sake of the conversation, they were trying to put an AI system which can take care of employees' questions to HR, compensation aspects and all. And as majority of you would be knowing, and I'm sure there are many HR professionals here, HR is one of the domains which is getting active influence through AI, right? So the question came was, as an employee, I should be able to ask for my salary slip, right? And the AI should be able to give the salary slip to that employee. Very fair. Can be done. Can I get my manager's salary? Not really. So what do? You put some role-based access control or back, and you control that. Again, this is not uncommon, right? Majority of the systems has it already. Role-based access control and beyond. Now, what if I'm asking for my own salary slip, but I'm asking, give me my salary slip with a signature, which has a 40% increment. Now the question is a little tricky, because you're asking for your own salary slip, but it's just a 40% increment, hypothetical. Can the system give it? Because as per the rule, the system has access to your salary. System can give you your salary. All you're asking is just a correction on top of it, or a manipulation, right? So that's an example of guardrail. So you put certain guardrails in the system, and you train your agent to say that. You train your AI, you train your agent to say that this kind of variation is acceptable, but the other kind of variation is not acceptable. If you get a question like that, you need to give a totally different answer, right? So you put guardrails around your system.
Since governance is so important, Suja, do you want to add any flavor to this point about governance?
I mean, innovation on one hand and then governance. But I think, as he said, not just because I'm in that industry, but there needs to be some guardrails, there needs to be some regulation, right? Because where does it all end? Where does it all go?
Correct.
I don't think anyone has got the full head around it. We were just discussing that, right? In terms of, even within, since it's so rapidly changing, I mean, even within corporates, we are trying to figure out how do we put select guardrails so data doesn't get out, people don't play with that data, manipulate that data. These are all relevant questions that is not just long use cases, but everyday challenges that we are.
So the good news is that there are two product people who are saying that, yeah, there is need for governance. But historically, governments have been years behind technology development. Technology comes, then they figure out what to do, then the bureaucratic delays are there, whatever it is, and it takes a long time. And meanwhile, some damage is done. A lot of good things happen also. Now, I'm going to move to this concept of AGI. Just for the audience benefit, I want to explain that if we, all those things, fantastic things you talked about happening in because of AI, they're all narrow intelligence. You can create an AI which will be fantastic at reading X-rays, sometimes even doing better than a radiologist. You can create AIs which can do help in robotics, in medical systems, and so on and so forth. You can create AI for a lot of things. But these are all narrow intelligence, whereas every one of you is capable of doing multiple things. You have something called general intelligence. You're not just a one-trick pony. You've got so many other capabilities. That's why you're able to live life. So far, AI has been good at certain things, very, very good, but that same AI which was able to beat the world champion at Go will be completely zero at if you tell them to pick up the glass of water and drink it without spilling on their clothes. But soon that is coming because I explained to you that development is going at exponential pace. And you saw that after 41 folds, it just took one more fold for it to take it to another level. So it's going to happen sooner than we think it is going to happen. And if you define AGI as AI having or becoming more capable or as capable as most human beings at most things. Not better than every human being at everything, but most human beings at most things. Then the world will look completely different, whether it's jobs or healthcare or any field. Now, a lot of people in the year 2000 thought that AGI or artificial general intelligence will happen in the year 2000. After 2006, a lot of ML development happened, and therefore by 2010, it was believed that it will be somewhere around 2075. By the time we reached 2015 and 17, the horizon seemed closer. In 2020, they thought this will be between somewhere around 2050. Now, it's believed that it can be anything between 28 and 35. My guess is 30, but it doesn't matter whether it's 30 or 28 or 35. There is going to be life before AGI, which will be different from life after AGI. So I want to ask you, what are the things we should do to prepare for all the major changes before AGI happens? Forget about AGI for the moment. Before AGI happens, what are the things you could expect? So that this audience knows that something is really going to happen and we need to anticipate and be ready, learn, relearn, whatever it is.
So very interesting question. So just give one small example of, 4 or 5 years back, I used to once in a while go have a talk in some colleges with a lot of youngsters. And I used to show a slide of Star Trek. That's the original sci-fi thing, where was done before I was even born, Captain Kirk. So they use facial recognition and things around that, right? So, and the year that was supposed to be happening was 2150 or something. And we are 2025, your phone does it, Digi is there, all that has happened already, right? So, so it is happening, it is bound to happen. So today, especially in the AGI field, one of the predominant techniques that is used is reinforcement training, right? So you kind of tell them, teach them, and then see, observe and learn, right? So it self-learns, right? So there's a lot of deep learning and other things that happens. Today, that is already happening today. But it is still restricted to, for example, if I'm programming something, then I tell the machines that learn from me how humans behave or the people who are associated with it. But when it becomes slightly wider, stating that the ability to observe multiple things for the same scenario, and you deduce why that person is doing a specific way of doing certain things, right? That's not far off, right? So because today you are saying that, learn from a person, why he's sitting, standing, walking, maybe the machine does the same thing, right? But if somebody is walking slightly different, somebody is running, somebody is doing something else, for the same situation, 3 people react differently, or 10 people react 10 different ways. The machine's ability to observe all that 10 and then kind of deduce, this is the person, this is what is going on through his mind, this, then it will decide what is the best way of doing things or according to the machine's own algorithm. So that is what is dangerous. Then it becomes unpredictable because it has learned from things and deducing something which you and I have not anticipated. Is it likely to happen 100%? Yes. When? I don't know, right? As I said, when somebody predicted something will happen in 2100 and it's like at least 150 years before we have seen that in our pockets. Yes, machines will become intelligent. I'll pause. Also, I wanted to say that we need to start learning to free our mind because human mind is brilliant. When I speak to some of the very topmost guys in the AI, in the industry, that's what they say that, we are so burdened on day-to-day operations. Simple thing, if you actually look at the outsourcing model itself, it actually wanted to unburden few people so that they can focus on strategic things. So I think our mind is going to be free and we will do a lot better than what we are doing today. But we need to train our mindset. We need to be ready for it. So from that, there's definitely a positive side. The second side, the machines are going to get intelligent. So from the other people's opinion, so what kind of a governance, what kind of a monitoring, what kind of a regulatory framework that we need to bring in which areas, right? Are there certain areas we should allow it? Are there certain areas we should not allow it? That's again a question, right? So, some countries use genetically modified seeds, some countries don't allow. It has its benefit, it has its disadvantages too. Are we ready? Are there enough people with the right knowledge to decide which are the industries that can help? Right, the air marshal was talking, right? If you see the war, it's 100%, even though missiles were flying, whether it is reaching the destination or not is decided actually by technology and algorithms. So I don't know. I mean, it's very, very fascinating from that perspective to observe how the impact, you might have whatever missiles you have, but whether it will reach the destination depends on the opposite sides. AI and technology capability that is there, that is available, right? Yes, we need to be prepared. We need to unburden our mind, new learning, new governance, new regulatory, and maybe a debate of if certain areas should be a go or no go, right? I think that is important.
So Pradeep gave us a good understanding of what you can expect before AGI happens. I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. What will the world look like after AGI happens? And this is a question, I can understand the challenge because so far no two experts have agreed on what is life going to be after that. For instance, just about last week, Yuval Harari was asked, what will this look like after AGI happens, whenever it happens? He says, it's going to be a world of abundance. We really don't know, but it's going to be a world of abundance. Energy costs will come down to zero. Because we will be able to figure out how to deal with fusion energy to produce energy at zero cost. If energy cost is zero, all of us live our lives differently. If energy cost is zero, all of our many assumptions we make in industry for manufacturing will change completely. And if you think about it after you go home and say, look, if energy cost is zero, how will my life change? You will find answers yourself. You won't depend on panelists like us. Similarly, they say the cost of water will become zero. We use only 3% of the water on the earth for our drinking purposes. We try to increase it a little bit here and there using whatever technologies we know. If, for instance, energy is free, the amount of desalination we can do is unbelievable. So there'll be potable water available to everybody quite easily. And Adani might set up a huge number of desalination plants. Say, energy is free. You just have to set up these plants and you can produce water. So if water is abundant, this thing is abundant, a lot of things get taken care of and you have a lot of free time, what will your life be? So since nobody agrees on what is going to be life after AGI, and it's not like in 2075, said it can be 2030, 2035, and majority of the people in this room will be alive at that time. So they need to be prepared at least to start thinking, what could it be? Or at least start thinking about it. So what thoughts would you share with this audience about what life will be after AGI happens? Very difficult question.
Yeah,
That's
I know
why you've given a lot of rest in the beginning,
I know you said 2 times already that it's a difficult question, and I totally agree with you. And if I were to answer that in a very simple way, the answer is I don't know. I don't know the answer because it's a very hypothetical question. What I know is, I'll give you an example. By the way, I was very proud to hear your story on a machine defeating Gary Kasparov, because it was our machine from IBM, so it was a proud statement. For me, it was a very proud statement. But when I look at one of the latest technologies that we're building on Watson side, using conversational agentic framework, where you can talk to an enterprise system, AI system, my answer is, in the last 3 years, we re-architected that product 3 times. Because the market and the technology is changing so fast that we had to revise our strategy and the architecture 3 times in 3 years. I've been working on products for a long time, and I have never seen such an evolution ever. Because once you define an architecture, you may change it probably after 6 years or 8 years or 10 years. But changing it 3 times in 3 years, very unlikely. What I'm trying to say here is the technology is evolving amazingly rapidly. So I agree with you. The other part is agentic is not future anymore, it's the present. But in terms of deployment in real life scenarios, it is still near-term future, right? We are looking at a situation where, and what is an agent? An agent is an entity, like you all will be talking to human agents, right? We all are talking to human agents when we call the bank or some other entity. Here what we are talking about, you're talking to an AI agent, right? And the AI agent has certain capabilities, and it can take some decisions, and it can take some actions, right? So that's an AI agent. What we are looking at a near future is when multiple AI agents, like humans, right? If I don't have an answer for a question, I can talk to Suja or Pradeep or Raj or somebody and get an answer. So we are looking at a system where agents can talk to a group of other AI agents and find the answer and conclude it, right? So we call it the multi-agent orchestration. So you raise a question, there is a problem statement, you're raising that to one AI agent who doesn't know the answer, and it will reach out to other agents which will know the answer and figure it out. And it may follow 10 steps or 1,000 steps, right? So that multi-agent orchestration is certainly one important area. The other one is feedback. Self-learning systems, right? So Pradeep was talking about reinforcement learning and others, but then agents which can learn from the behavior. If you look at what Air Marshal Mr. Khanna said, right? He was talking about competency, character, communication, collaboration, right? Competency is an agent's ability to do something. Character is the behavior and guardrails that we put around it. Communication, we all know, right? How to communicate that back to the user. And collaboration is the one that I was talking about, where agents can talk to each other, right? And then imagine a situation where it can learn from its own experiences. So those systems are going to be very powerful, and that could happen in the it will happen in the near future. But then AGI will also happen, I don't know which year, but it could be very near.
I was excited when you talked about multi-agent systems. My son's PhD in the year 2006 or 2005 was on multi-agent systems. And he talks about it and he's working on
it's an amazing system. When you want to book a ticket, it understands that I can talk to another agent which can book my hotel. It can talk to another agent which can take care of my food preferences. It can talk to another one which takes care of my transportation, and then finally give you a complete package, right? So it's a multi-agent orchestrated system.
So it's been very interesting, but all good things have to come to an end. And before we end, we need to give the audience a chance to ask questions. There's just one point I want to mention. We're all evangelists for AI. But you should understand one downside. If AI is so great, why are corporations not implementing AI? Going whole hog. Why are they not going? They're using things which OpenAI and other Cloud and are using and are giving us at subsidized cost. Because people are throwing billions of dollars in their R&D. If you actually create, you take an AI model and run it in your own premises, you'll see that the operating costs are very, very high. And sometimes certain things might be possible through AI, but it might be cheaper to do through human beings. And I'll tell you why. Because honestly, the system which is followed for creating AI solutions, the way it operates is in some sense, it tries to kill a mosquito with a sledgehammer. It goes on all engines firing for solving even small problems. Big problems I can't. Even small problems, they go all engines firing. So the amount of, in technical language we say, it uses up too many tokens. And there's a charge per token. And the charge per token can build up before you know what's happening. It'll be a huge bill. So unless we as AI producers figure out how to use less tokens for a solution problem, adoption of AI will be slow, although invention and R&D will be huge and products will come out. But that's also coming. A lot of us are working on how to use less tokens for a particular problem. I mean, like instead of 100 tokens, can use 5 tokens. That's the kind of challenge. And there are some new technologies like liquid neural networks and all that, where it comes down drastically. But let's now quickly go on to the audience. And although you have a wide range of topics covered and very interesting views from experts, I'd like some of these mics to be available for people in the audience. So ask any question, but when you ask a question, say, I'd like Suja to answer, I want Pradeep to answer, or somebody else to answer. Okay? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you for mic sharing. It's very, very interesting and very informative talk I hear. And I'm Dr. Nahas, Managing Director of Littoral Global Research Foundation. Being a researcher, I am always concerned about the AI because the Suja madam talked about unlearn and relearn things. So my question regarding this traditional business, how are the disruptors like the AI, automation and Industry 4.0 transforming the traditional business model and workforce dynamics? You're clear? Yeah?
Automation, you already said it, faster, accelerating the velocity, to outcomes, basically, whether it's products or services. So whether it is any industry that we are talking about, the way that, we are looking at people who are going to come in and be part of that industry, the way they are trained has to change, right? Because, whatever said in, whether we like it or not, every industry has to adopt technology, and they are doing it in a fast pace. Now, you have to train the people. That is why that AI plus human. So to answer your question around workforce dynamics, it's basically to reskill them. That is where we talk about reskilling or upskilling, right? Without that, it's going to be a challenge. Now, if I look at my industry and how we are hiring, our hiring requirements have changed. Earlier, we used to look at, specific skill set. Okay, we are hiring a product engineer, or we are hiring a software developer. We used to look at specific skill sets. Does he have Java? Does he have, certain things like that? And maybe experience. We no longer depend just on that. We look at if that person comes with set of other attributes where he can quickly make an impact, learn, able to pivot, take decisions, right? Articulate story, tell the story of what he is doing, right? So we have changed the way we hire. So now when we hire, we look at holistically the whole process. Does he think this engineer, because he has to come with other sets of skills. It's no longer just software engineering or coding. He has to come about, can he ask the right questions? Can he think? Is he logical? Does he have empathy? Because without that, we have realized that it is not possible to get the outcomes that we require. So in that sense is where when we talked about the jobs changing, the kind of jobs that used to be there before, the traditional kind of jobs, are changing and replaced by a different set, right? So for instance, just today, I was talking with another colleague of mine in the leadership team about how do we change learning in our organization. Because we all talk about learning. We all talk about the speed at which we need to pivot. Because, in our organization, for instance, we release products every month. That is how quickly the technology changes, right? When you're doing that, you also need to train the people who handle these products or use these products, plus the ones who are coming in and they need to learn how to, upgrade them and all that. How do we make sure that they are equipped to pick up these things and run with it? So we learned that, we have realized that the traditional form of learning, get in, go to your LMS system or whatever it is, you go through a set of courses, that is not going to help us, because by the time we update a course in the traditional learning system, the technology has changed. So we are now embedding GPTs, ChatGPT into it to see whether it can connect to different, there are things called connectors now. And I'm sure, you can explain better, in your product world, you do see that. Basically, GPT gets connected to different databases to pull the data and information or documentation, right? So that it creates on its own modularized learning or micro-modularized learning that helps people to understand and learn quicker. So we were looking at creating micro-learning modules. We are using AI tools to create AI avatars that would train the people. So no longer we require trainers or instructor-led trainings. It's completely self-serve. So there is a lot of things that are changing. And when we look at that, the workforce has to change as well. So it is basically adapt or unfortunately perish, because it is the hard truth. And it is no longer, and AI is a great leveler, by the way. I cannot say that at my level, AI is not going to impact me. So if I don't understand it and I don't pivot and I don't learn as well, it will come for my job too. Because I have to make the right decisions, right, at the right time. So AI, whether you are a fresher or a senior exec of a company, you will need to keep learning. You will need to change. So that way the dynamics is going to change. And of course, you might not need the same number of people. Like for instance, in our organization, We always talk about, we may never hire in thousands and thousands because, 30 to 40% of the jobs, AI is already bringing in efficiencies. And this has happened just over a period. We have been talking about it, we have been thinking about it, but the way that we have implemented it in the just last few months, it's just taken a complete route. So it is inevitable. I hope it answers your.
Thank you, Suja ma'am.
So there's time for one more question. And if there are, I'm sure there'll be many more questions. We'll be around. We can talk to us individually. But
I have a question. In Operation Sindoor, was AI in playing a role? Possibility of AI playing a role in Operation Sindoor.
AI playing a role in operation.
Oh, yeah, it is. That's why I was just saying that it is, I would say it's significant work
Thank you.
happened through AI.
Thank you.
Right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. I think it was a lot of learning for me. I'm not a software expert or, but I am a user of OpenAI and all. So my question is, even when you talk about the deep fake, it's a product, like a cartoon. It's a product. It is, how best we can make a deep fake. It's an art. But my question is not related to that. So everything we talk about the positive and a lot of products and coming out. Even deep fake is a product for me. But what I am thinking is engineered AI. For example, a university, I can target an AI and I can engineer it and I can make, like a madman, I can make the whole thing working. It shows the wrong source of data. For example, actually it has taken the data from a particular source, but instead it shows a wrong data, like a virus or something like that. So do you have any thoughts about it? Thank you.
Thank you.
So your question was, how do we control that, right? So we spoke a bit about governance earlier. We spoke a bit about putting guardrails around those systems. But it has to be a continuous process. Like Mr. Raj was talking about hacking, right? But before hacking came in, we had frauds on checks, right? Banking, checks. It used to be a big deal, check fraud. Now we don't hear about that anymore because more money is there in other cyber crimes and phishing and many other things, right? So this also is going to be evolving. There are majority of the people are going to be consuming AI in a constructive way, but there will always be a set of bad actors who will be using the technology to address that, right? So if you're a businessman, if you can find a solution for it, you're going to be the next billionaire, right? You're going to be the next millionaire or billionaire. That is an opportunity too, but that's the reality. Any product that we are going to be launching, you need to build in strong governance around it. You need to put strong control systems around it. And for example, right, one of the simple ways in which that is being done these days is you have a model, a large language model or a SLM, small language model, which is doing an action, right? An agent. Now what you do is you develop another agent which monitors this one and put a control around this one, right? And you could even have 3 other agents monitoring this one in parallel and take an average. There are algorithms where you take a combination-based decision, whether this particular one that the primary model took, right, the decision that it took, should it be published or should it be discarded? So you can build an automated system itself around it. And if that doesn't work, that is when you're going to be bringing a human in the loop. Right? So those controls are absolutely important because if you don't put that in place and if you don't test and control it, you cannot deploy this in mission critical applications.
So thank you for that very nice answer. And thank you, Pradeep, Suja, and Vinod, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with this appreciative audience. And thank you also to the audience because you have sat patiently through this long panel discussion. Hopefully you got some value, but we sincerely appreciate all of you listening carefully.
Thank you, dear panelists. Now may I invite Mr. E.M. Najib, sir, to kindly come forward and hand over a memento as a token of appreciation to Mr. Raj Nair, sir. I request Dr. Saudullah, sir, to kindly hand over the memento to Mr. Pradeep Jayaraman. requesting Mr. Suresh Babu AS, sir, to kindly hand over the memento to Ms. Suja Chandy. May I invite Mr. S. Ram